Two guys break into a home. He has a wife and two little daughters. And then they take his two daughters in front of him and rape both of them. And then shoot them. And then they take his wife and then decapitate her in front of him. And they can look at him and say, "Isn't this just great?" And then you take a sharp knife and take his manhood and hold it in front of him. Now, while this might sound like something from a Stephen King novel or Twilight, that's not where this came from. This came from a one Phil Robertson, the patriarch of the Robertson family of Duck Dynasty and Wing Commander. Now, I left a couple of specific words out of there because what he was talking about was atheism. The actual phrasing was, two guys break into an atheist home. He has a little atheist wife and two little atheist daughters. Two guys break into his home and tie him up in a chair and gag him. And then they take his two daughters in front of him and rape both of them and then shoot them. And they take his wife, then decapitate her head off in front of him. And then they can look at him and say, "Isn't it great that I don't have to worry about being judged? Isn't it great that there's nothing wrong with this? There's no right or wrong. Now is it, dude?" Then you take a sharp knife and take his manhood and hold it in front of him and say, "Wouldn't it be something if this was something wrong with this? But you're the one who says there is no God. There's no right nor wrong. So we're just having fun. We're sick in the head. Have a nice day." This is the stigma. The atheist, secularist, humanist, skeptics, agnostics. This is the stigma we live in with the U.S. Especially down in the Bible Belt, where I happen to live. I live in Arkansas, so I'm on the northern edge of the Bible Belt. Right there, Missouri and Arkansas area. We're in the northern edge of it, but it's still extremely strong in this area, in my neck of the woods. I don't know where Phil Robertson gets his information on just who atheists are, just what atheists are, and just what we actually think, feel, and believe. But he is completely and totally mistaken. Phil Robertson is a dick. This is a man who came out and said very derogatory things about homosexuals. This really shouldn't surprise anyone that he would come out and say something this ignorant, this malformed, this stupid about atheists. It really shouldn't. And to an extent, it probably shouldn't piss me off, but it still does. That there are people in this world who honestly believe that as atheists, we would have absolutely no issue walking into someone's house, raping their daughters, decapitating their wives, and cutting off their manhood. That they think this is something that we're okay with because we don't have God. That without God, we can just do whatever the hell we want. We can do whatever the fuck we want. We don't have to worry about anything. No, there's no God. There's no moral right or wrong. There's no moral absolutes without God. So murder, rape, pillaging, theft, everything's just on the table. It's just on the table for us to do with as we damn well please. You want that girl walking down the street? Well, there's no God, so just go rape her. Man, you don't like that guy over there? Well, there's no God, just go decapitate him. That people actually think this about atheists pisses me off. I watched a fairly decent, a fairly nice little story about atheists on CNN inside the world of non-believers. It was intriguing. It raised a lot of points and a lot of issues with the atheist community. Well, not with the atheist community itself. It was a very in between. It was a very neutral story. It showed both sides, both the religious aspect on how atheism affects families who were extremely religious, as well as what the effects have been on atheists in the United States and across the globe. Had people like Richard Dawkins in it speaking about atheism. It was a fantastic documentary. Well, not documentary, but story on CNN. So I saw that today, and I was feeling really good. I was feeling really good. You know, we had CNN come out, make a fairly positive, fairly neutral, fairly well done story about atheism, and then you turn around and see that you've got Phil Robertson here spreading these lies and these ideals that atheists just do whatever the hell they want because we have no more absolutes. We have no God telling us that, oh, no, you can't do that. That is wrong. Don't do that. Turn yourself around. Even though by their own dogma, by their own doctrines, by their own teachings, the God that they preach cannot look down and say, don't do that, that is wrong. Turn yourself around, because that would be working against free will. That's the whole reason that Adam and Eve were able to eat the bloody fruit in the garden, is because of free will. That's the scapegoat of the Christian community. That's the scapegoat of the Christian religion. Oh, the reason we can do bad, even though there's a God who's all powerful and all knowing and all able to do whatever the hell he wants at any given moment, is because free will. We have free will. We're human. We're left to our own devices, and we do wrong because we're human. But apparently, Phil Robertson, even though he does teach this whole free will thing, doesn't even understand what he's talking about, because here he's saying that it's because we don't have God that we're able to go around and decapitate people, rape little girls, and do whatever the hell we want. Not because of the human nature or the human condition, or because people are assholes. No, it can't ever be that. It's because they don't have God, but Christians do it, and the only reason Christians ever rape anyone or decapitate anyone or kill anyone or hurt anyone around them is because they had free will and God didn't stop them. How does any of this logic make any sense? How does the logic make sense for this to work? For atheists, they just... it's because they don't have God. The reason that some Christians do the exact same thing that I'm saying that evil atheists do is because, well, God can't stop them because that would go against free will. So, at the end of the day, God doesn't matter. It's going to happen whether there's a God or not. Going by the logic of free will, of the teachings of the Bible, it's going to happen regardless. So whether there's a God or not, whether you believe in a God or not, doesn't matter at that point. Not at all. But no, Phil Robertson has to come out and paint atheists in a bad picture. And as an agnostic atheist, as a skeptic, as a secular humanist, I take affront to this for obvious reasons, and if for no other reason, you should look up the word humanist if you don't know what that is. I take great offense and great affront to this. On top of the fact that the guy doesn't even understand what he's talking about when it comes to his own Bible, apparently. If the belief in God would have stopped so many things, would have kept so many things from happening, then why is the Bible itself rife and just full of atrocious acts that equal what Phil Robertson was saying here? Why were there the Salem witch trials? Why did it take until the 1970s for a bill, for a law in Missouri that allowed Mormon hunting? Yeah, going out with mobs and just killing Mormons. Why did it take until the 1970s for that to no longer exist? Where it was legal for Christians to go out and hunt and kill Mormons because they didn't believe the right doctrines. Why was it that despite all the belief structure in the world, the people who landed on the soil of what is now the United States were able to go through, rape, and pillage the natives of the land? Why, if God, this belief in God, will stop you from doing evil. Did slavery ever exist? Or what, do you think that their beliefs in God just meant that they took the slaves and put them in a nice house, give them good clothes, a lot of wonderful food, and never touched their daughters or did anything to hurt them? Hey, look at your history. These were the Christians who were doing this stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, the slaves were sold by other Aboriginal tribes, but whatever. And yes, slave is from a Slavic nation. You know, slave comes from Slavic, but that's beside the point. Why is it that throughout history that some of, if not the most atrocious acts ever committed, were committed by people who supposedly believed in God and the God of the Christian faith, of the Catholic denomination, of the Baptist denomination, of all these other denominations of the Catholic faith? Why is it you look through history and some of, and as I said, maybe even the worst, most atrocious acts have ever been committed by them? Why is it that you can look at the statistics of countries like Japan and Europe and other areas of the world that are more secular than the U.S., that religion is almost a non-existing thing for the most part? Why is it that you can look at these cultures, these countries, these places, and see that their crime rates, violent crime rates, are lower than the U.S.? Why is that the case? The United States of America, where Phil Robertson lives and preaches, is the most Christian country and nation to exist on this planet right now. Why is it that we've got some of the worst violent crime rates in the world? If a belief in an all-powerful, all-seeing, benevolent, loving God is all it takes to stop them. Not only does the Bible stand against what Phil Robertson is teaching here, the data stands against what Phil Robertson is teaching here. It makes me sick. It really does. I'm going to end up posting about this in a couple of different areas. And I know that at the end of the day, in some of these areas I'm going to post about it, and I'm going to share this article from the Huffington Post. Links in the description. The audio is there in that article. I know that some of the people who see this, where I'm going to post it in a couple of places, are going to become very irate with me, because the people who see me post in these places, such as Facebook, are extremely devout Christians. And me calling out Phil Robertson, the patriarch of the Robertson family, one of the biggest faces in the Christian community as for popular celebrity Christians because of Duck Dynasty, and me calling him out, that's going to end up pissing a couple of people off. But people need to see. People need to listen to what this guy is saying. And I've said this in previous videos. I've said this in previous rants about other things. You got to listen to what people are saying. You got to look at what they're saying. You have to look. And as an atheist, I have to look at where they're getting their words from. I have to look in the Bible. I have one in my apartment. I used to have a different one, but I have one in my apartment. For reference, obviously.